Owen Roberts, who was a very imposing and really a good person, I thought, was leaving and had taught his last class, first year torts, and the entire student body gathered outside the room. And as he came out, he was a big man, very imposing, big eyebrows, and he wore what the lawyers wore in those days, what they called the office coat. It was like a cotton gray jacket. And he came out, and there was the entire student body gathered. And I presented him with a watch, which the students had chipped in and bought, and it was engraved from the students to Owen Roberts. And he looked at it, and he said, "This is the only thing I need, time." And now, at the age of 84, I know exactly what he was talking about.
I went to Penn because my family expected me to go to Penn. I went to law school because my cousin, who was almost a little older than I am, became a physician, and there had to be a lawyer in the family, so I went to law school. That is really true. Yeah. My great uncle, who was the idol of the whole family, was a very, very well-known judge here in Philadelphia. And it would have been absolutely incredible that there was nobody in the family to become a lawyer, so I was elected.
I discovered that all the people from the law school who had received clerkships from Common Pleas Court Philadelphia judges, were getting letters from their judge, to their draft boards, in order to get them out of the draft. So it was suggested to me that I speak to Horace Stern, who was the Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So he said to me, I want to try something out with you. He says, let's switch positions. Now you're the Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and I'm a graduate. What would you do? Would you write such a letter? And I said, no, I wouldn't. And he said to me, you just made me very proud. I'm glad that I selected you. So I went in the Army.
The teachers that we got in the class that I started with were all of the young new teachers that had been recruited for the law school by Earl G. Harrison, who was then the dean. We got Clark Bice for contracts. We got Louis B. Schwartz for criminal law. We got George Haskins for property. And all of them were far, far superior in my judgment and that of a lot of my classmates to the ones who had taught the first year courses for the group that had started the previous fall.
I did want to just pay tribute to my professors because they were they were a group of men. I just thought being in a class of Louis Schwartz's was one of the most exciting things that could happen to a person intellectually. He was taught by the Socratic method with a capital S, and it was just intellectually challenging and satisfying when you could make sense of what he was trying to teach. Leo Levin was a great professor, and it was easy to remember what he taught. And I guess I'll always have a special place in my heart for Professor Ed Keaty, because one day in the third year, Louis Schwartz came laughing out of the professor's men's room saying that Ned Keady said Norma Shapiro thought like a man. That was the greatest compliment he could pay me.
My professor of criminal law was Professor Keady. And he was a great, great professor. Later on, he became dean for a while. But I had trouble writing long answers, and it was a result of my engineering background. And I went in to see Professor Keady one time. I said, "Professor, you know, I have trouble writing long answers." He said, "Well, we like short answers. The shorter, the better." And he said, "My God, you were an engineering student and you're a graduate engineer, and now you're in law school. You are what we term, and you probably have never heard this, an interdisciplinary student." And at any rate, he said, "You're one of the first, if not the first, interdisciplinary students that our law school has had."
It taught me the essence of the law, the fact that you represent a client regardless of what side the client is taking. If he's a defendant, you take his side and try to do it as best you can. If he's a plaintiff, you do the same thing. You are beholden only to yourself and to the best interests of your client. And that stayed with me for as long as I practiced law. I practiced for about 60 years. And then unfortunately, I became a little bit ill and just look back on my practice with pleasure.